Well, my parents tell their friends that I work in pharmaceuticals because they can't really. I don't think they feel like they can say exactly what it is I do. It is quite frowned upon. Like there is the typical stigma of like, if you smoke, you're never going to be able to amount to nothing. Which is one of the reasons why I also wanted to create HØJ. It was kind of like to create as a very technologically focused but luxury company, because we obviously spend a lot of time in research development and focus on quality.
HØJ Hopes for Innovation. While famous the world over for hygge, Lego and Hans Christian Andersen, Denmark isn't exactly known for being at the forefront of cannabis innovation. But Simon Folmann, founder at herb accessories brand HØJ, is doing his darndest to change that, one Mako shark-inspired pipe at a time.
And we are here. Hello and welcome to the Lobster Pot. I'm Dave Barton, and I'm actually in the same room this time with my co-founder and co-host Jamie Bonthron.
Although I do look like I've been green screened in, or that I'm your child. I am bigger than this in real life. It's the perspective, it's the shift.
It's like a sort of,
I am here for real.
We're seesawing. We'll just have to kind of lean in,
roll back and forth the whole thing.
Yeah, but we'll get there. But we have a very, very nice guest today, and it's Mr. Simon Villum from HØJ. Good to meet you, sir. How are you? How's the day progressing for you?
Very good. Well, the weather is lovely in London, so I can't complain. We have good days, we have bad days, but it's always absolute pleasure to be in company with both you, Dave, and Jamie.
Well, thank you very much. And so, likewise, sir. So, for those who don't know, you tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, where you're from, and a little bit about HØJ, because you guys are doing some very interesting things. So, please tell us more.
Of course, yeah. So my name is Simon Folmann. I'm Danish, but I live in London. I've lived here for 5 years now. I moved to London when I got the idea of creating HØJ, simply due to the benefits of intellectual property companies in the UK in comparison to Denmark. So move where it benefits you. The world is your oyster, I'll have to say. And definitely, like, after we've been locked down for a while, as we all know, it definitely shows to prove that if you get to explore life and explore the world, it's definitely good for your body, mind, and soul. But so we are an intellectual property company, as mentioned. So we invent technologies for the auxiliary side of the cannabis industry, specifically hardware products. So we currently have our grinder and our pipe on the market. The grinder is actually more of a slicer, but we'll get into that. We also have our own papers and much more in the pipeline. So we have our development part of the company here in the UK, but we also have distribution from warehouses and companies out of Germany and in the US from Pennsylvania.
Very cool. And I know you're probably dying to show us your signature product, which you've kindly sent us a version of as well, which I haven't got with me today. But it is an impressive piece of technology. And I want to kind of throw the word, I'm going to sound very intellectual, biomimesis in there, because I know that the way you've designed it replicates, is it a shark's fins in nature?
So it's actually the scales of the Mako shark. So you have a look of cool here, basically. Yes. So it's a microchannel cooling pipe. The benefits of this is basically cooling down your smoke so it doesn't irritate your throat, but also purifies and cleans out any potential heavy metals or added elements to the cannabis plant that you don't want in your throat. So a mechanical filter per se. And if you take the Mako shark scales and put them under a microscope, you'll find something very similar to this. So in terms of biomimicry, evolution has been designing for us for hundreds of millions and if not billions of years. So why not take advantage and inspiration in that? So the Mako shark is one of the fastest sharks in the sea, actually the fastest. And the reason for that is that it generates small vortices of energy in the water through its scales, which is literally like this system. But because it's dynamic in its movement, when it moves, that energy is made to propel it forward like a missile in the water. So we were like, what if we take that and make it static in an environment? So we trap the smoke and enables it to travel much further and therefore cools the smoke, but without the hassle of water. And like, I can be a bit of a messy guy. I think a lot of creatives are. So cleaning is never on top of my priority, to the big dismay of my coworkers and my girlfriend. But what could enable me was to make an efficient process of making it a bit more hassle-free for me to go through that journey of cleaning, which is why it magnetically opens. There's a lot more to it. We take advantage of the thermodynamics of the aluminium. I'm not going to nerd too much out, but basically a core design philosophy of HØJ is that every single shape that we create has a specific intent for fills, such as the wings that you can read a lot more about that on our website, and also the vortex generating system starting already underneath the bowl to heat the herb from underneath instead of on top, so you get even heat distribution and a nice smooth burn.
It's really interesting to hear you talk about it. You know, definitely probably don't get too far on the nerd out, because I'm sure there's some people, but you certainly won't lose me, because I think it's, you know, I'm a big proponent of function informing form, and it's very obvious that that's the case with this product. How influenced do you think you are, I suppose, by Danish design or design from Northern Europe and Scandinavia in the things that you put together? And is your background in product design, or do you think it's just kind of been informed and you're enthusiastic about it as a consumer? What's the kind of reason for it starting now?
So I think just being Danish in general, we're brought up with minimalistic, simplistic design all around us. Like even from like when we start going to like school from an early age, like the chairs we're sitting on, it's Danish design, right? It's made in Denmark, and like all of the houses are very minimal. Most of the houses are very minimal, light in design. It's a lot of oak, a lot of natural elements. Basically, the reason why they are so like historically is because obviously there's a lot of darkness up in the north, and so some days the sun goes up before after you go to work and goes down before you get home. So it's like kind of like eternal darkness. So having very light environments give the opportunity for the light to reflect better into the houses, and just gives you a more open, spacious, and give you the feeling of being in a light environment, even though you potentially are not. And I think, again, like a lot of natural elements, you see our packaging is cork. It reflects how to use the product. So you see the little arrows, clip opens horizontally. So therefore the packaging does as well. And sugarcane and the cornstarch instead of plastic. But I'm actually not a product designer by trade. I am one of those guys that didn't really finish school and just kind of went into working. But being influenced and always had a massive passion for design, I saw it as my mission to teach myself how to be able to do it, which can be a bit hard. But today, guys, you can learn anything on YouTube with a little bit of double espresso and some passion.
I don't think that's the truth. I think that's kind of, you're a bit of a jack of all trades, Jamie, aren't you, actually, in terms of being able to kind of just do stuff, which is it's a blessing and a curse being a generalist. It means you can touch anything and someone else has to finish everything. It's usually how it works.
Very true.
But, it's kind of nice to be able to dabble into that side of things. It's clear that, you know, you've got a mission there that's very personal to you in the way that you put together HØJ and the product. You mentioned there the differences between slicing and grinding. I'll pick your brains on that a little bit more. I'm interested to find out a bit more about that, because it's interesting.
Yeah, of course. So basically, grinders traditionally are created for extracting aromatic from inside plant material. That's why they shred with teeth. It's over 110-year-old technology. And basically they're essentially invented for tobacco and traditional herbs, where basically the oils that contain the aromatic and the benefits are inside the plant material, right? So it does exactly what it needs to do. The cannabis industry just happened to adapt that, but it's very counterintuitive when you think about the trichomes, which contains the terpene profiling, the CBD and the THC, so the medicinal and recreational effect of the plant properties on the outside, right? So if you take and you crush that plant up, you release that oils into the system that you're preparing it with, which is a grinder in this case, and actually not preserving the integrity of those oils on the plant, which is what you want to consume. You're not going to smoke your grinder, right? You're going to smoke the plant or consume it in any other matter. So basically, when we designed clip, which actually means slice in Danish, like HØJ, it means high in Danish. Everything we do is just actually explaining exactly what it is. Køl means to cool something down in Danish, which is our pipe. So you'll see here with clip that we basically invented a dual blade system that slices the herb with 2 blades that are sharpened to 18 degrees, which basically is the perfect angle for a bevel edge, which is the knife's edge, to slice through plant material and preserve the integrity of the structure. So what this does, it actually preserves up to 200 to 300% more of the trichomes than using a normal grinder, because you can see this is actually a heavily used grinder, but there's almost nothing stuck in comparison to a traditional system. And then from there, we just went overkill. So we invented a levitating blade. There's no springs here. It basically only has a contact of friction when you insert the lid, and it pops in. So you can see here, the second I remove it, it pops out and levitates. And it comes from when I grew up. We basically, flour was very rare to get, especially in small town Denmark. And there was not a lot of growers, at least not what I had the knowledge for when I started smoking. Probably it was a good thing I didn't know them for obvious reasons. But so we had hash, which was available to us. So when we did get the rare opportunity to get some flour, when you look at it for the first time and you use a grinder, you see that you lose all of these little crystals. Everybody knows the crystals, the trichomes, is basically where the benefit is. So I started by using shot glass with a scissor, because intuitively it just told me this is how we preserve that so we can get more out of it, instead of spending a lot of money on getting something that's very, very rare and then actually just losing half of it. It's kind of like pouring a beer, but like spilling half of it.
It's interesting. It's like, you're doing what's right by the plant and for how it should be. There's not much anymore, it seems, that where there's a sense of ceremony about doing something. We're all just so used to kind of like, flip the lid on a beer, drink it up, or get a joint, smoke it. There's no kind of, it's that kind of attention to detail and that kind of thinking about how to get the maximum benefit, or the maximum, treat it in a certain way, that seems to be very much at the core of the sort of design philosophy you have, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, but I live by a philosophy: treat others as you want to treat yourself, right? So, and we do spend a lot of time with our plant. So treat the plant as you want to be treated yourself, with care and with passion.
Absolutely. I think it's an easy thing to say, but I think in practice, it's a lot more difficult. I always think, but I think it applies to a lot of things. I mean, I think when we went to Germany, I think where did we go? We went to like a coffee shop, and just like a cannabis coffee, like a a chain, like a sort of like a German version of Starbucks. I can't remember what it's called. But again, the sort of food you get in there, you go, it's like so much better than the sort of thing you get in London or Manchester or wherever, like a Pret a Manger or something like that. The quality is just so, it's like, why don't we have this at home? And it was a case of, well, like I said to you, and you sort of mentioned, well, it's just about attention to detail and care and quality and just making sure. And it applies to so many different things, and I think it's an easy thing to overlook in a lot of ways. From whether it be food, cannabis, beverage, whatever. It's that whole, we're doing right by ourselves as well as the product that we have, and I think that's I'm just waxing lyrical on that. I just thought it kind of fits in with a lot of the things that you start to see when you start to take notice of the world around you a little bit more. Maybe it's triggered by sort of having travelled again after sort of 2 years stuck in just seeing the rest of the world come to life. It's like, we don't have this at home. Why is it like that? It's almost like when you're a kid and you go to Spain for the first time. It's like, they have lemon Fanta here. Isn't that wonderful? It's like, I wish we had that. It's that kind of sense of there is a different way to do these things.
Yeah, definitely. And I absolutely agree with you. Like going out to work, the first thing I mentioned in this conversation, right? Like why move to another country to create a business? Like this is exactly one of the reasons, to get more inspiration around the environment around you. And you just get so much out of traveling and experiences other cultures and thought processes and environments. And the Germans, they have a saying that I absolutely love, which is Ordnung muss sein, which means, like roughly translated, there must be order. And that basically goes into their philosophy of living, right? In terms of, if you're going to do bread, right? Ordnung muss sein. Like you have to do it properly. Like if you're going to do engineering, you've got to do it properly.
Again, I think when we think of, just to talk about Denmark a little bit for a minute. And I've been there a couple of times, and it's a very, I've been to Jutland, which is very flat by memory.
Yeah,
and
I lived there.
Something like Lego comes out there, and you think, well, there's just this kind of mind-boggling kind of super product that, has come out of nowhere. It comes from this sort of philosophy of, everything being stackable and, being able to create from something. I just think and obviously there's the whole idea of, it's much lauded, this idea of hygge or whatever, which is something, again.
Yeah, I love hygge. Candles everywhere.
And, how does that inform all of these kind of different things that Denmark's known for? What's the kind of attitude towards cannabis there? What's actually the legality? I don't think it's recreationally legal, is it? Or not yet?
Well, my parents tell their friends that I work in pharmaceuticals because they can't really, I don't think they feel like they can say exactly what it is I do. It is quite frowned upon. Like there is the typical stigma of like, if you smoke, you're never going to be able to amount to nothing, which is one of the reasons why I also wanted to create HØJ. It was kind of like to create as a very technologically focused but luxury company, because we obviously spent a lot of time in research development and focus on quality. Like there's 52 magnets inside of clip, right? Which is like you just don't normally would do that in a grinder, but it was also to prove a point, like we can really make something truly unique and different, which is a high-end lifestyle, so to speak. So, but it is frowned upon. Like we have a place called Christiania, which is in Copenhagen, which is a free state per se, which is kind of like the only place where it's like a gray market where you can actually smoke and you can buy cannabis in the streets. But overall, we're not very far with legislation as of yet. But as we see, the tide is truly turning. Even in Germany next year, we're going to see some really good progression. I was in both Canada and the US a few weeks ago, and like it was just I was in Las Vegas and I went into a dispensary called Planet 13, which is allegedly the biggest dispensary in America. And like here in the UK, like you just meet a shady guy down on the corner, right? And here you walk into like the most beautiful, excessively large store with like also flotation displays and like an entire wall that's like LED panel showing like huge flowers like blooming from seed to plant, and like it's just such a
far away from what we have here, doesn't it? It feels so far away. Yeah. But again, not that far away yet, because when you think about legislation, when it's actually opened up in the US in comparison to where they already are, it is, I was speaking with a colleague of mine who lives in Canada, and it's only 3 years ago that they got the recreational bill. And in 3 years, so much has happened, right? Like truly high-end, beautiful boutique stores that elevate your experience. So it's just a matter of time. And like, let's just be honest, like the people are going to smoke whether people legalize it or not. So for the government's perspective, for anybody listening, working in the government, get some taxes on it. Like it's going to get sold anyway. So make it benefit the government instead of benefiting the criminals, right?
It should just be a pretty simple no-brainer.
Exactly. But obviously,
I think it's becoming that, isn't it? It is more and more becoming that throughout Europe, and the way that countries access a changing attitude towards it is slower and faster in different countries, but it is happening collectively. It's not that it isn't happening anywhere. It really is a global shift as much as it feels like it's slow. I'm really curious to find out, as you guys are an intellectual property company and you have the assets and the products that you sell direct to consumer or through distribution, however, you have a smoking product, and there's been in the past kind of 5 years a real uptake of vaping. I'm really intrigued as to what you think. I saw an article, I think earlier today, it was talking about the number of vape users in the UK. Now we're on however many million vape users, and 350,000 of them have never smoked before. How do you kind of look at capturing parts of that market? Because I'm sure it's as a business it is of interest. How do you look at that from a brand perspective and a product perspective? Is it through that kind of that technological aspect, or is it something else, or is it a combination? How do you look to look at that?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And basically, like we're definitely gonna go into that area at one point. To be completely honest with you, the reason why I started with Clip and HØJ, so we have a 9-product portfolio that we are already developing on and want to finalize developing as we also come up with more ideas. And there's definitely something from less combustion oriented in that roadmap.
Yes.
It was simply also like, I started HØJ, and it's not like I come from like massive wealth or am I super VC backed or something like that. So HØJ and Clip was basically the products I could go fastest to market with without having to go in and do a lot of electrical certifications and hardcore engineering, because also I'm self-taught in terms of engineering, right? So electrical engineering is just like one step up. So it was because it was fast to go to market, and it gave me an opportunity to actually create something myself with the experience that I've learned and get that on the market, and then get proof of concept that this is actually something I can do. And I think we've managed to do something at least. And then definitely, so we're working on doing that. And to be completely honest with yourself, I'm a combustor. I'm not a huge fan of vaping. I do like it. I like the convenience of it. Definitely, I've had the opportunity to try some of the newer products that are on the market, and definitely some of the flavor profiling that you get out of not specifically like oil-based vape products. And I'm not talking shatter and stuff. I'm talking about the pens. I don't think you get a lot of flavor there, but some of, let's say, like more packs orientated, like the Dynavap, I think is a brilliant product as well. Extremely well tasting material you get out of that. So that's the answer. It's a bit like beating around the bush as well, but I create products for myself as well. I smoke, so therefore pipe and a grinder, but it's definitely a market I'm super interested in after been trying a few more of the products as well and getting more experience.
It's the natural progression, isn't it? As you learn more about not just products, but about the industry and what the market wants and is looking for, and what you can offer it. Because it's very clear that what you've made so far, I'm sold. I think it's a great set of products. I think it's really cool.
Thank you.
It's beautifully made and it's well thought out, and it clearly is built by a person who wants to use it. If that makes sense, it really isn't anything other than exactly what it's supposed to be, and that's kind of perfect in terms of it as a Danish invention almost.
It's like the perfect storm. It's like, you create stuff that you want to be able to enjoy yourself, and if it comes from that sort of place of passion, then that's like, other people are going to share that passion too, and absolutely makes sense. But to think you don't have any formal training in kind of product design, it's hats off to you, kind of literally. It's
I appreciate that.
It's something, isn't it? It really is. And
but it is how people, they learned back in the day, like before there was, we live in the information age now, right? So we have so much available information. You just have to pursue it yourself, right? And then obviously continue to pursue it constantly. But back in the day, like before we had like big cities, and like we're talking back in the day, the way people, they taught them, what was taught was by themselves. Like they pursued knowledge. They were like maybe woodworkers, and they're like, hey, I'm going to try this and try that. So anybody can do it. It's in our nature, right? It's just a lot more accessible now. So follow your own path. It's definitely gonna bear fruit as long as you stay consistent with it.
That's a really interesting point. When you started out designing the products, were there people that you reached out to for help specifically with it? And how did you kind of go about, I suppose, creating something that was, not just going to work, but was going to be marketable? Did you look to other businesses that had done it, or was there some sort of place that you went for information on the market and anything like that?
Yeah, a lot of research, obviously, and then reach out to your local network. So for an example, like signing a product, I was very lucky to have a very good friend of mine who's taught me everything about CAD, that basically could show me and help me with the initial drawings and the products, basically just to get a ground on such. So he's educated in it, right? So I could take it back a little bit on that and then also delve into it. And then basically it's much easier to be able to ask questions for someone in your surroundings. And in terms of branding, I pardon my language, knew shit about branding. Originally, I was not a very good a brander to say, but was very lucky to get introduced and working with some people that taught me everything I know today. And HØJ is not me, HØJ is us. I am very lucky to have a absolutely amazing team, you cannot, of course, there's some people, they can do stuff on their own, but I definitely do think teamwork makes the dream work. So HØJ is absolutely not just me who's created this this company we're in now. It's been a true reflection of passionate and hardworking and a team I'm very honored to be a part of.
No, that's wonderful. I mean, so what's kind of next? I mean, you said you've got other sort of products in the pipeline and things. Well, what's the sort of next 6 to 12 months like for you guys at HØJ?
So we have, yeah. So the thing is, I'm probably also a little bit like I work on a lot of product at the same time. So it might go a little bit slower sometimes than I really want, but it's also because I'm extremely passionate about all the ecosystem need to be able to communicate with each other. And I also think we probably expanded a bit faster than the size of the team was able to manage. Like we're in like 20 different countries and over 200 retailers selectively. So we have a lot of retailers that's on the backlist that we're waiting to accept, just simply so we have a little bit more time to organize and make sure that expectations are met from the partners that we work with, so we can get a steady and supply and making sure that when their customers come into the store and ask about the products, that we can deliver every time, so we don't expand too rapidly as well. But both having operations here in the UK and in Germany and in the US, but also a team that's based internationally, it's a lot to control. But we've definitely right now have a lot of stuff happening, and I can say like the end of this year and especially next year is going to be really, really interesting for people that are following the HØJ journey. Have a lot that's going to come out. We just launched our digital ecosystem as well, HØJ House. That's in the birth phase right now, but the people who have bought products, they have accessibility to it. I'm not going to say so much more. Also, you guys, actually, I'll send it to you afterwards because you probably have it. You don't have it on the first iteration you have now, but then you can play around with it a little bit. But that's also a further extension of not just because, as I said, we're a technology company, right? We're not just a product company. And in the end, I design products not because of the product itself, but because of the experience that we have the opportunity to create for people. And I really am passionate about that. So there's also a software element, not just in terms of HØJ House, but in terms of the B2B side of the industry and the entire ecosystem itself that we're starting to explore and executing on.
So you're a busy chap, in short.
There's a lot of work, but I love it, So, and again, that's
really clear. It comes through when you talk about it. It's rather than people talk about having a passion, but it is very clear that it is a passion for you. And that's a really nice thing. And it's why it's easy to talk to you about it, because it happens very naturally.
I appreciate that. And actually, we have a series that goes out on YouTube that I was a bit reluctant to do because I don't want... Simon Says, yeah. So it's our social media manager that wanted to happen. I'm not that big of a fan. I like speaking with you on podcasts and stuff like that, but I'm a pretty reserved guy, actually. So it's a pretty huge thing for me to do the Simon Says series. But tomorrow's Friday. So on the Friday one that's coming out as we're recording this, it's how to build a successful team. And I cannot put emphasis enough in terms of saying one of the reasons why I'm also so passionate about it is because I truly do work in an environment around other passionate people as well, which just makes it an absolute joy. It's nice to wake up and be excited to go to work, even though, like we all know, as entrepreneurs, it's hardcore. But so there's also mornings where you wake up and you're like, shit, there's a lot of work to do. Again, pardon my language. I do have
no. But again, it's like you're saying, being at an event like a ICBC, like, back in Berlin, when you're among the sort of community, you start to feel that, and it's not just me, it's like everybody else that's plugged into this as well. And it feels like, this is, everyone's equally as passionate about making something happen, whatever it is. And, whether they're creating devices or whether they're, ESG experts or whether they're marketing people, it's like, actually, there's a real sense, unlike any other sort of sector I've worked in, of like, we have the opportunity to change things from the ground up. And I really feel like that's something that's really unique about the cannabis sector. So.
Yeah, definitely. And also, how many times do you have the opportunity to work in an industry where you're basically actually going to be a part of something where it's been denied for so long, but I love the quote, I was blind, but now I see, which is truly what the governments are starting to do, right? And it's a very interesting thing because there's a few moments in history where this has happened, especially for something on a global scale of this size, not just nationally. So it's a rush to be a part of, and again, it does something to people, as you say, which is very, very interesting and truly, truly unique. And I'm humbled to be a part of it.
Yeah, likewise. But no, really, really cool stuff. No, thank you so much, Simon. Really appreciate you joining us today. We look forward to following the HØJ story and finding out more about what you guys are up to. And we wait with bated breath to see what else, what other magic you can pull from under your hat. We look forward to seeing more. So thank you so much. And hopefully we'll get to meet up again soon, and we'll have you back, I think, next year, if that's cool. It'd be good to chat again, but hopefully we'll get to see each other in Vegas again in person. So that'd be cool.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's always a pleasure. I'll end by another quote. I know I used them a lot, but it's a great mantra for me. And as you said, with technology, like technology misunderstood feels like magic. And what we at HØJ really want to do is just to put a little bit of magic into everyday life.
Absolutely. Good stuff, sir. Well, thank you very much. And speak soon.